All right, we are live. Giving people a minute here. This is an exciting one, though. Cool. Cool. All right. Well, this is a bit of a different setup than you guys have seen in the past. Still the same person. Hi, everyone. My name is Charlie. For those who haven't tuned in the past, I'm an associate here with the camera company. Today, I have a bit of a different live stream, but I'm very excited for this one today. So for those who don't know, I have been an avid Sony shooter for the latter parts of my photography career. And I've been so infatuated and such a fan of their Sony A7R lineup. And sitting before me today is their A7RV, which is their latest and greatest camera in that lineup. So what we're doing today is we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a live unboxing of this camera. So here we have the box, and we're going to do this basically just as if you were to have just gone home with the camera, and this is what you are seeing out of the box. So first thing you'll notice up here is this little tool, and this is a cable protector. So when you're using HDMI cables in the side of the camera, this allows so the cables don't get frayed or don't get bent. So this sits right here at the top. So I'm going to put that aside here, and we are just going to kind of continue working our way down into this camera. So then next up we have, the standard warranty cards and the standard, information that Sony leaves, with their manual. Put that aside as well, and we're going to continue working our way down. And this is where the fun part happens. So here we have the Sony A7R strap. And one of my favorite things about Sony is any camera that you get with a strap, it actually comes and labels the actual camera that it came with specifically. So this is the A7R5 strap. And the thing I noticed about this firsthand when I actually tried this on for the first time was the strap actually sits nicer on the neck. It's a little bit wider, and it doesn't have this fraying that the older ones do. So in all the things with this camera, they've taken the time to do some fine tuning and some peaking with. So this strap here is fantastic. Next up, over here on the side, we have the standard AC cable that goes along with, in this packaging right here, the battery pack. So this is where your Z100 battery sits, and this plugs into the top, and this is your cable for it. So we will leave that here. This is another one of my favorite things about Sony is that they're not like other brands, some of them, where they go ahead and they only include a cable of some sort. They actually go ahead and they include an actual wall piece. In here, we have the standard Z100 battery. This is the battery that goes with all the full-frame Sony cameras within the last 4 years or so, I would say. So the A7 III, the latest A7 IV, the A7S III, the full line of A9, the Alpha 1, all the cameras will use this Z100 battery. So we're going to slip that back in here as well. I'm going to put this aside as well. And then further down here, they also just include a standard USB-A to USB-C cable as well, which is great. So again, for computer connectivity, you have that as well. Last but not least is the part of this box. So I'm going to go ahead now and grab that out. And so if I climb on into here, here we have the A7R5. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move this box off to the side here. We're going to do a full dive into this camera. I also brought with me the Sony 24-70G master lens, and I also grabbed myself the Z100 battery that has some charge in it. So we're going to go through, we're going to set this all up and kind of run through it. Now, before we do that, though, let's actually kind of take a look at the camera and kind of see what it looks like in relation to other cameras that we have out there. So from the front view, it looks like any other Sony camera out there right now in regards to a full frame. Still has the same A7R, trademark logo right here. Here's your sensor cap, which I'm not going to do right now because I'm not putting the lens on just yet. But let's take kind of a peek at the top and kind of see what we're looking at here. So here we have our on-off switch as normal, but then now they've changed the layout from the previous A7R cameras. And now what we are looking at is we are looking at how they have it set up with the A7 IV and the A7S III. So we have here the record button now, which is great. They've moved this up to the top, which I'm a huge fan of versus when it was hiding right here. They next also have a C2 and they have a C3 button right here as well. Next to that, they have their menu and they have their C1. Now, the cool thing about Sony is if you haven't shot with them in the past, is the C1, C2, C3, and also down here is a C4 button. These are all custom buttons. You can adjust these to whatever you want the camera to be. So I know on my A7R4, I have mine set to ISO. I have one set to my intervalometer. One is set to focus magnifier, and it kind of streamlines things when I'm going through and shooting. Moving our way down, you still have the standard joystick that moves around right here. So if you want to adjust to their new menus, you can jump and use this one right here. You also have their FN or their function button, which kind of allows you to dive into the menus as you're still shooting. Next, you have the standard dial that comes with any of the Sony cameras and all the Sony cameras as well. In addition, down here is the standard 2 buttons for your trash can, which also acts as a C4 depending on what mode you're in, and then as well as the playback button. So that's kind of the button overview. Here at the top, then you also have your standard green auto. So if you're someone that likes, kind of let the camera do what it wants for you, you have your green auto mode. And then you still have your P, A, S, and M. So manual, shutter priority, aperture priority, and program. What I do like, though, is the fact that now they have it set up where it is a 1, 2, and 3 here at the top as well. Basically, what this 1, 2, and 3 has allowed you to do now is you now have more presets in regards to what you can set your camera up to do. Because what they've done now is if you are switching over to a movie mode, what you can do now is you can actually go ahead and you can switch this little button right down here. And this switches over from S&Q, which is a time-lapse setting, over to a photo versus a video mode right here. So it adds some more features up here at the top for you. Now, I can't go on without you talking about this camera without my favorite part, which is now Sony having their fully articulating screen within the A7RV. I had the A7R4, and I have to admit one of my biggest pet peeves was the fact that when I used to use this, it was always sitting like this. This is the most I could do with it. I couldn't go ahead and flip it out like this, but now they've gone ahead and they've made it fully articulating just like their A7 IV and their A7 S3 have, but they've also one-upped it as well, and you now can fold out the screen like you used to in the previous ones. So if you're someone like me that likes to shoot low, I can have this set down like this. I can have it popped, and I can also have it like this. So I can have a pretty darn articulating screen here in any way that I ever need it to be. So this is huge. This is a huge upgrade from the 4 and any other preceders. You now have this huge feature that you can take advantage of when you are setting up tripod shots, low or high. So let's open that up. Let me grab the battery here and let me grab the camera lens, and we're going to throw this all on and we're going to look into the menus. So we'll take that off. We'll throw this on. And let's get the battery in here as well. Now, battery-wise, it just sits here right in the bottom. So I'm going to go through, and I'm just going to slide this bad boy in here. Whoops. Slide it in as so. Click that. And now we have the setup right here as well. Now, I failed to mention, I realized as I was going through, I was so excited about talking the screen that I forgot to mention that here on the sides, this is their new card reading slots. So in the old one, they had 2 UHS 2 slots, and that was it. What they now have done is they've made these slots larger, and now what you can do is you can have 2 CF Express Type A slots as well as putting in UHS 2 slots. So this has become a huge advantage for those who want an even faster write speed than what a UHS 2 card can offer. Let's close that back up and we'll flip over to the other side here and jump into these. Here you have your options in regards to different ports. So here you have your headphone ports as well as a USB-C port right here. And then here at the bottom, you have a standard micro USB. Now, if I jump into this spot over here, you can see I have a full-blown HDMI port right here as well. So in regards to setting up for a secondary monitor or a screen, this has become super helpful. So because I can do this, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise up this counter. And what I want to do, actually, is I want to just kind of look into the menu system while this camera is sitting here using the articulating screen, because what's not to love about an articulating screen? So let's go ahead and let's flip this out. And I'm going to set it up just like that. So here we have the menu right here. I'll jump into menu. I'm going to skip out the date and time. But let's jump in here and let's take a look at Sony's new menu system. So for those who are using the old Sony menu systems, you'll recall that they always had a series of lines here at the top. Now what they've done, though, is it's all here on the side, and you can see how it's all kind of categorized out now, and you can see into the menus further than you were able to on the old one. So I can go in and I can look at all my image quality, my media sizes right here, 1, 2, 3. If I want to switch over to my exposure, I can switch over here. But now what I can do is I can see a preview of everything before I actually jump into the menu. And this was something that on the old menus, it was very difficult to find. It kind of made you work for it and spend a lot more time diving into those. So let me go through and switch over on the camera to an actual manual mode real quick. And what I want to do is I want to show you guys what the main screen looks like. So this now is the screen that you would see on the back of your screen if you're not looking at it in sorts like this. So if I were to flip this over and put it in, you can see it flips up nice and fine like this. And now I can go through and I can make adjustments as such. One of my favorite things that I noticed is here at the top, it actually tells me what is actually called. So this 1/250 number, if you're someone that's just getting into it, you can now see that this is your shutter speed. So what I can do is I can click into here and you can see it's now highlighted. So what I can do now is I can change this and I can see the changes being made as I adjust. Same thing goes for my aperture. If I wanted to change that, as long as the lens has the ability to kind of communicate with the camera, I can change it as such like that. Same with my exposure compensation. If I wanted to switch over to an ISO from auto, I can click into there and now I can go through and see my different ISO settings. And this camera has a base ISO of 100, but is expandable down to ISO 50, and it can go all the way up to 102,400. Forgot a 0 in there. So that's what it looks like with the new menu system. I have to admit, I am such a fan of how this looks. I never really had a super big problem with the old menu, but it did take a little bit of extra time to kind of dive in there and find those things as well. So next thing though is let's jump over and let's take a look at the movie settings. So what I can do now is let's switch over on this to movie mode. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to switch this over to movie, and now I'm in movie mode. And as you can see now, the menu has changed now over to the recording icon. You can also see here as I'm going through, the menu is fully touchscreen. This is something also that Sony's didn't have in the past. So now I can go through and I can mess with all these settings by going through and making any changes I want with a touchscreen, which is awesome. So let's go through here and let's look at the image quality in regards to what the movie function has. So if I wanted to, I can go up to an XAVC in 8K. This is something that the cameras in the past didn't have from the A7R4 lineup. You now have the option to shoot 8K. You also have the option to shoot 4K, and you also have the option to shoot down to regular high definition. There are different settings in regards to what frame rate you are shooting at. So if you're shooting at 8K, it brings you only down to 24. If you go down to 4K, you can see it brings you up to 60, so you can shoot 60 frames per second at 4K. And if you're someone that shoots in the standard high definition, I go to my movie settings here, I also can do high definition there as well. So in regards to movie, this is the best of both worlds. You have the high megapixel 61 megapixel readout sensor, but in addition as well, you also have high resolution video. So with that, I'm just going to put this back down here just like this because we've kind of gone over the whole thing, but I can't say too much because the only way for you to get a real feel of this camera and kind of see what it has to offer is to come in and take a look at the camera for yourself. Get it in your hands while we have it because they're going like hotcakes and they're not going to stick around long. So as always, thanks again for tuning in. Hope you learned something about the new camera here, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Till then, happy shooting.